Are you dreaming of a totally unique romantic escape, honeymoon, or even destination wedding? Or maybe you're just looking to add a little adventure to your relationship. Let And Beyond turn those dreams into reality with luxury and sustainability. For over 30 years, And Beyond has been curating unforgettable experiences that leave the world a better place in destinations like Africa, Asia, South America, and even Antarctica. Whether it's a private safari in Botswana, stargazing from a treehouse in South Africa, or finding true peace at their stunning river lodge in Bhutan, And Beyond has got you covered. Their collection of lodges and camps offer unmatched privacy, untouched landscapes, and unparalleled romance. And here's the kicker. Honeymooners get 50% off one partner's And Beyond accommodation during their stay at selected luxurious properties in Africa, Asia, and South America. So whether you're celebrating a honeymoon, anniversary, or just want a wildly romantic getaway, And Beyond delivers romance with a positive, sustainable impact at every turn. Check out their lodges, camps, and itineraries at www.andbeyond.com. And when you're ready to book your ultimate romantic journey, reach out to me directly and we can get started. Thanks to And Beyond for supporting our Passport to Love series. Are you tired of the same old dating scene in your local area? Do dating apps leave you more frustrated than fulfilled? And what about those magical travel romances? Why do they seem to happen so effortlessly? What if I told you the secret to falling in love is off the apps and into the wide expanse of the world? This month, we're bringing you our Passport to Love series, an exciting collection of stories from around the globe where travelers found love in the most unexpected places. Stay tuned. Love and adventure awaits. Hi, I'm Kelly Tolliday, founder of Transform with Travel, and your trusted guide to life-changing adventures. Here, we help you dream big, plan smarter, and embark on your next journey without stress or overwhelm. This isn't just about booking trips. It's about reimagining what's possible for yourself, one adventure at a time. Today, we're bringing you one step closer to your greatest travel dreams. So buckle up because we are about to take off. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I have Stefanie Grassley here, tuning in from Copenhagen, and she's going to be sharing her story about how she fell in love through travel. Welcome, Stefanie.
Thank you. Hi, Kelly. Good to
Hi.
be here.
Yes. And so I'd love to start, where were you in your life before you met your partner? I'd love for you to give a little bit of a backstory there.
Okay. So I was living in New York City. I was there living my independent lifestyle of my dreams, basically. I grew up in Utah and I was always obsessed with New York City as a kid and as a teenager. And I finally just moved there with nothing. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't know anyone. I just went there with one suitcase and it was a complete disaster at first, but I figured it out. And yeah, so I had been living there about 8 years. It was the best thing for my 20s. It was like I had so much fun. I learned so much. I met so many amazing people. I met my heroes. I worked with them. It was incredible. And then I just felt like, okay, well, I'm kind of ready for the next thing in life. And I feel really ready to get married and have kids. I really lived it to my fullest, I feel like. So I was I think 31 or 32 when I met Rasmus. But yeah, I was living in the city and I was an Airbnb host. So I traveled a lot because I could make more money if I was away living in cheap Airbnbs and I rented out my expensive Times Square apartment to people. So yeah, I was really ready. And the day before I met Rasmus, I was in Berlin and I was alone and I was feeling so bad about life. I should be happy, I'm traveling the world and this is what I want. But I was really changing my wants into I want to share it with someone now. I'm so ready, I was in this park and the sun rays were coming through the trees and I'm just praying okay, I'm totally ready, universe, let's do this. So the next day I met Rasmus and that's because he was my Airbnb host in Copenhagen. So I booked a room in his apartment and that's how we met.
Wow. Okay. So you went from New York and then you mentioned that you were in Berlin and then you were in Copenhagen. So what brought you to Berlin and then what ended up bringing you to Copenhagen?
I was just traveling a lot, and my friend was going to visit her boyfriend in Ukraine, and she was like, "Do you want to come?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." So I went with her, and then we traveled around Eastern Europe for a couple weeks together, or maybe a month, And she had to go back because she's a teacher, so she went back to New York, but I didn't have to go back because I had quit like all of my jobs by then. I was just an Airbnb host and traveling. So I extended my trip and I really wanted to go to Copenhagen because I like to ride bicycles. And I had been to Amsterdam and loved it. And I had a bike in New York and I would ride it everywhere. And I would just get so angry at pedestrians and cab drivers and just like always like screaming and like never. I think it's changed now, like a little bit. There's some better bike lanes, but I just wanted to go ride my bike in a city that was built for that. So I decided I'll go by myself, like after she had left. I was in Berlin for a few days by myself. But I had decided to go to Copenhagen before that, and I had tried to book a room on Airbnb. I was actually in Canada at the time, and there was a huge flood and the power went out and I couldn't book the room that I was going to book. And then when I got back on, I couldn't make the reservation because someone else had booked it. And then I found Rasmus's place.
Okay, that's amazing. And so you arrive at your Airbnb in Copenhagen. Does he meet you there? What's the meet cute here? How do you guys finally lay eyes on each other?
He was sitting on the front steps of his apartment and I walked up and was like, "Oh, is that him?" And I felt like this guy is so cool. There's something about him. We talked for a little bit and it was 8 in the morning or something. And I had come from Berlin and I had gotten up at 3 that morning or didn't sleep at all. And then traveled and I was exhausted and I looked like I was exhausted. And his first impression was that I was a crazy party girl because I looked absolutely hungover.
Oh my gosh, I've definitely been there, so I know. I know what that looks like.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't that at all. Like I had just come from Berlin, just did like the craziest stuff, which I did not. And then I feel like we flirted like a little bit, and I was like, okay, well maybe if he like offers to carry my suitcase up the 6 flights of stairs, then maybe there's something. Like that's what I told myself as we were talking. So already there, I felt like, well, maybe he'll like me too. And then he's like, all right, well, let's go. And then he grabbed my suitcase and we went up. And then he showed me the room and we talked in there for hours. It was so bizarre to me that the things that were coming out of my mouth, was like all about my future, my dreams, like what we both wanted in life. Like it would just went there immediately. It wasn't like lame
Yeah,
questions that made me
superficial.
you. And we were both Airbnb hosts, so we talked about that too. And this was in the beginning of Airbnb because Airbnb is completely different now. So this was when you met your host, sometimes anyway. But usually you met them, you actually stayed in their house with them. They sometimes showed you around. I was one of the first hosts, and the founders actually came to my apartment and were like, "How's it going? Like, what can we do better?"
Wow. And so what year is this around? Like 2014, 2015?
I mean, we met in 2013. We had both been hosting for a few years. Yeah, and we talked about like it's so cool because this platform, everyone on this platform trusts each other. Like they trust the world, they're not worried about like anyone that's especially like, okay, it's a young woman and going around the world just staying in random guys' apartments is like you have to be trusting. And then we talked about that and how we both like wanted to create this place where people like that would just all be able to come together because I was traveling alone. I was like, oh, but I really want to be surrounded by more people who feel like this about the world or want this type of world. So our first conversation, we talked about that, and then we ended up creating that place together, which is pretty wild.
Wow. So from that moment, I guess maybe fast forward, how did the relationship progress? Because obviously you're from different parts of the world. You were traveling at the time. What take me through the next couple years of the relationship, or even maybe the next couple weeks? Like, how did you continue to progress that
Days
relationship?
even. Yeah, it progressed so fast, which I think when you are traveling and in different countries, it just has to. It's an all or nothing choice that you have to make. So I was only going to stay in his place for 3 days, and then I was going back to New York. So we had known each other like a day and a half maybe, and we had talked a little bit, and then like the second day I was there, he asked if I had ever been to Sweden. I was like, no. It's like, do you want to go? So he drove me to Sweden, and we got some food, and he showed me around some different things, and he showed me around Copenhagen. And like I said, Airbnb was different. So I was like, is he just like a really nice host? Or does he really like me? Because he wasn't making any other moves. He was just being really nice. And on the second day, he's like, hey, so do you have to go back to New York on Tuesday? And I was like, I don't know why. And he said, well, I am going to the south of France on Thursday, and I would love it if you would join me and we can get to know each other
Oh my
better.
gosh.
I didn't say yes or no right away, I don't think. But the next morning, I was also like, does he really like mean it, or like, let's see. So the next morning when I came out of my room, he was in the kitchen with his laptop open to like Norwegian Air. It's like, Joe, you ready to change your
Oh my
flight?
gosh. I love
Let's
it.
do it. So I went to south of France, and it was a vacation with his parents that he had planned. Like, so I right, and I was like, who do they think I am? Like, what did you tell them?
Oh my gosh. That's
So
hysterical.
I met his parents immediately, stayed with them. They have a house that they go to, they share with a few other people that they go to in south of France. So I went there and stayed with them and like cooked with them, and it
You
was
were thrown
it
into
was
the deep end like right away.
really bizarre. Yeah. And his mom was so funny, and she just like, I had goosebumps the whole time you were there, just like seeing you guys together. She just knew, like, it was after only a few days, was like, had talked to my husband about a ring that she had that was her mom's, and just like everyone just knew it. I was worried that I had some kind of like bachelorette syndrome thing though, because like, how can you not fall in love
Right.
when you are going to all of these amazing like exotic locations and trying all these new things with a person? So I was like, is it just that? So I was a little worried about that. It was just exciting, but it wasn't like actual love.
Right.
And then even we drove to Italy because he's like, oh, well, let's go get gelato in Italy. And it's like, okay, this guy is just too much, It's like so fun, and it's always an adventure. So then we went back to Copenhagen, and I was going to fly home to New York from there. And it was just devastating, It just felt like a heartbreak.
Had you
Yeah,
had you guys decided at that stage, okay, we're together, like we're going to be in a relationship, or had that conversation not happened yet?
it had happened, but I still felt like I don't know if it actually is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is this
I,
just a
I
fairy
can't,
tale? Yeah.
yeah, was that it? And do we never see each other again, kind of a thing.
Mm.
But I remember being at the airport, and I was just like, I felt, and driving to the airport, I felt like I was going to throw up the whole time. This is just, feels so bad leaving. We're like, okay, next time we're going to meet in the middle, which is Iceland. And then so we made plans to do that, and we did. And then I felt like the longer it went on, the more like solidified it was. And he was also so open about his feelings and about what he wanted and why. And it was a complete refresh, because every guy I had dated in New York was like, all right, well, let's date for like 6 months, but we're still not together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then even knowing this guy for 2 days, he's like, yeah, I really like you and really want to be with you. And it's like, okay.
You're like, is this real?
But he said that he kept like getting the confidence to ask me things or tell me things because I kept saying yes.
Hmm.
So the first night I was there, I was in my pajamas, no makeup. And he's like, oh, I'm going to show you the bikes just so you know which ones to take in the morning. So I went down, the 6 flights of stairs and showed me the bikes. And I was like, okay, great. Thanks. He's like, do you want to grab a drink at the bar right here? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I go in there in like my little shorts and t-shirt, So we had a drink there. And then the next day, he's like, hey, do you want to go here? Oh, have you been to Sweden? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah. Just up for anything. And I think in New York, I was doing a lot of improv. So I had trained my brain to say yes immediately. That's kind of what you learn in improv.
I love that.
And it's something that can absolutely, obviously change your life. If I had said maybe no to that booking or even going on the trip, there's a million things that led to where I am now. But even that, like, oh no, I don't want to go out dressed like this, like I'm so embarrassed, or I need to have my hair. He recently actually told, because we talked about it, I had my hair like up in a bun, like those high buns. And he said, I remember after I asked you and you said yes, like you took your hair down. We're like, okay, let's go.
That's all you needed to get ready was just put your hair down. I really love that, because the whole thing about training yourself to be a yes person and how that can open so many doors. Like if he might have lost the confidence to keep asking you, like it's like, yeah, he had the initiative of asking, but you had the courage to say yes. And it's that beautiful combination of the two of you working symbiotically to like fast forward and fast track that relationship.
Yeah, exactly. It takes two. And yeah, if you're not supporting the other person by letting them have what they need to, then of course you're not going to go anywhere together. But if you both keep adding things, then you'll create a beautiful life together, maybe.
So speaking of a beautiful life, so you guys go to Iceland, you solidify your relationship, you continue on this life of adventure together, and eventually you decide, okay, we are each other's life partners. Can you talk a little bit about perhaps the last few years and where you guys are now?
So after Iceland, then he came to New York for a few months and lived with me. And then we actually moved to LA together to live there for a few more months. And I was working there. And then I went to Copenhagen. And then for the whole summer, we just drove around Europe and slept in a car. And it was really fun and hot. We did crazy stuff together. Like we hiked mountains in Switzerland. We didn't know what we were doing. It was full on a lot of tests like of relationships, and learned a lot about ourselves and each other. And then I was like, hey, well, I really am ready to get out of New York, and I love Copenhagen. Like I would be happy to move to Copenhagen. So we both, we want to like have kids, and Copenhagen's a great place to have a family. And he said, okay, but you can't decide that you like Copenhagen until you have been here for 1 full year.
Yeah.
Because everyone loves Copenhagen in the summer. And I had only been there in the summer. So we decided I'm moving to Copenhagen anyway, and then we'll see how it goes. But also I was pregnant. So I got pregnant like a year after we met. We planned that I would move to Copenhagen. So I went back to the US and closed out my apartment and everything, and then moved to Copenhagen, and we got married a few months later at town hall. And we were like, let's just like not tell anyone, because you do have to move really fast in these situations. And even before, I was like, oh well, because I grew up in a super religious background, and it's like, oh, I don't want to live with anyone before I get married. When you're in this situation, like you gotta live together, or else what are you doing,
Yeah. And also logistics to prove for visas and stuff like that. It's good to show that you have a life shared together as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I couldn't even live there unless, I couldn't move to Denmark unless we got married too. So okay, well, now we're also getting married because we have to, but also because we love each other.
Exactly. I've been there. I know.
But we were like, we're not going to tell anyone because my friends and family can't be there, so it's not really fair. So we're just going to go do it alone, and then we're going to have a wedding later, and we'll invite everyone. But like 2 days before we were supposed to get married, his mom like grabbed me by the shoulders. It was like, if you should get married, I want you to tell me I really want to be there.
Aww.
I was like, oh my gosh, she knows. We have to tell her. So we told her, and I'm glad that we did, because then she came and she like had I don't know why I bought these from India, but I have all these dried rose petals, and she threw them at us and brought champagne and stuff. It was sweet. And we had that little moment of getting married. And then a year later, we had a big wedding in the south of France. I mean, big. It was like 30 people at the house that we basically fell in
Oh,
love
how
in.
sweet.
Yeah.
So you had your daughter first, right? You have a daughter? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. She was 5 months old at our wedding in France.
Cute.
That was also nice when everyone can meet her. Yeah. And we were still living in Copenhagen. And I actually started an improv theater in school in Copenhagen because I didn't have any friends. I like only knew my husband and his parents when I moved there. So, and that was the only way I made friends in New York was through improv. And there wasn't any place to do improv there. So I started one with another guy. Then that was like ran its course, you know. The theater is still here and going, but the partnership was just like not good anymore. And then Rasmus and I both had nothing holding us back. It felt like, and it was like, well, we could really go anywhere. Where do we want to go? And we had our son at that point too. He was just a newborn. And it's like, okay, well, and then we started, well, what about that dream that we had, we talked about where we wanted to create this place and, you know, bring people from all different cultures together and just celebrate the good things in life. And it's like, okay, yeah, what about that place? And then Rasmus was pushing for it more, I felt like. He was looking at land and we would drive to different places and he would show me pictures. And one place I didn't even get out of the car. I was just like, no. It's not it. And he was so mad, you know. And then we were looking at land like in Northern California, which is crazy expensive, and we didn't have money, you know. We were just dreaming. And our friend just offhandedly said, "Well, God, like you could buy a castle for that price." And we were like, "Huh, that's a good idea." So we sat down. We were actually in that house in France at the time with our little kids asleep upstairs, and we Googled castles for sale. And Google suggested that we add Italy to the search. And we said, okay, why not? We like pizza and gelato. So we searched it, and like 2 minutes later, we found Castello di Ristanchi, which like on a site, like real estate site. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the one. That one's really perfect. That's the one. And my husband just kept looking, you know, oh, what about this one? This one's like on a cliff, like by the sea. This is so cool. And I was like, no, the other one, because it's like, it's not pretentious, you know, it's not like, it doesn't have the murals and the big gold chandeliers, like kind of thing. It's just like, it seems doable, you know, it's like very rustic, authentic, like has a lot of history, obviously, to the place. And so, as I said, like we really didn't have money. We were still doing Airbnb as our main gig in that same apartment I met him in with 2 kids. So
Wow.
we had moved into one room, the four of us, basically the smallest room. It was a nightmare living situation, actually. I don't know how we made it through. And I was like teaching English online and like this little desk. And then we had bunk beds and the crib. And it was ridiculous. But we were trying to save as much money as possible for our future dream, you know? But we still didn't have a lot. But Airbnb had this thing at the time where they were giving up to $100,000 to projects that were going to help restore travel in non-big cities, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the reason that we have the castle now is because they did that.
Wow.
They didn't choose us, though. We didn't get any money from them. We didn't get any money from anyone. But it's because I believed that we could. So that didn't stop us from keeping the dream alive. Because how many people have dreams? Everybody, right? But what stops you is the how. And so many people have, you know, written to me on Instagram. They're like, oh, that's my dream. You're living my dream. And they just don't know how to do it. And even if, yeah, they just think, how would I ever get that much money? Or how would I learn Italian, or how would I learn how to do a business in Italy? Like, we also had no idea any of those things. We didn't speak any Italian. We didn't know anyone. All we knew was that everyone said, do not do this. Do not start a business in Italy. It will be a nightmare. it didn't stop us. The how didn't stop us because of that. I believed we would get an investor. The Airbnb would be an investor and we could use that for our down payment. And they didn't choose us. And I don't even know what ended up happening with that program or like who they chose. But the seller was an 80-year-old Italian guy who just wanted to be done with the property, and his family, like none of his kids wanted anything to do with it anymore. And so he was willing to give us an insane deal, basically, where we could pay a small down payment now and then take over the business. Kind of like a too good to be true, and it kind of was. There's a lot of issues that came up later, but we knew that this would be okay, this is our one chance. Like, we'll never get a chance like this again. So we're gonna take it and say yes. And everyone was like, you're so brave for doing this. But we felt like, we weren't scared of what's gonna happen. We're scared of not trying it and always regretting it. What if we had bought that castle in Italy?
That is not a what if you want to be asking yourself later in life.
No,
wow.
Not.
Okay. So what is the name of the castle?
Castello di Ristonchi.
And people can come and stay there now or host weddings there, or what's the ultimate goal of the castle?
Yeah, so we host events there now. We started by doing Airbnb, but it didn't really work because there's so many rooms. And then people have to be with other people. And since Airbnb is not what it used to be, it didn't really work. So people were complaining. They have too many inflatable toys in the pool. And it's just like, what do you want?
Yeah,
buddy?
It's like a hotel at that stage. Yeah.
Yeah. So we decided, we need everyone to know each other already that's here. Now we just do big events, which is usually weddings, but it could be corporate retreats or birthday parties or family reunions. It's a magical castle camp. It's like going to summer camp with all your favorite people, but you're an adult and you have really good food.
That's amazing. I love that. Summer camp for adults. I think we all need something like that. So You've had such an incredible journey throughout your life and now with your husband Rasmus and your 2 children. What did you learn about yourself specifically through this experience of your relationship and your partnership?
I've learned to trust myself and my intuition. That's a big one because, there's the gut feeling or super heavy feeling where it's like, I have to do this or I want to do this. I also learned a lot about myself with the Enneagram, or just like what type of person I am and why do I think like that and why other people think like they do. And also that I like other people in my life because for so long I was so independent. And I still am really independent, but I have to remind myself this is actually not what you want. You don't want to pull away from people or this relationship because that's my tendency. That is so easy for me to just be like, okay, fine. I don't need you. I don't need anyone. I could do it myself and watch how amazing my life is going to be without you. That's what I always did before. And it's not what I want, actually. So it was a big lesson for me to just be humble and be like, actually, these are my feelings, and just really be able to be in a relationship and be open with my emotions.
Yeah. I mean, relationship, especially one that gets fast tracked, is like a mirror. And somebody could hear the story on the surface level and be like, wow, adventure and love and romance and Italy and France. But it's like there's actually like a lot of inner work that's happening behind the scenes because of something that goes from 0 to 100 so fast. And I can say this from personal experience because that was my own personal story too. And there's a lot of work and a lot of open conversations that need to be had in order for something like that to have the sustainable fire. Like we have an explosion of amazing romance and fun and adventure, but it's like, how do we actually make this last a lifetime? And that is the underpinnings of a relationship. Like something that, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you guys have a really strong foundation of communication.
Thanks. Yeah, I also learned how to do that too.
Yeah. Just a little
Yeah.
something you learned along the way. So I get a lot of questions from people around, well, I met this person and they want me to fly back to Ireland, or they want me to meet them in Mexico, or he's going to fly to me
Mhm.
in Orlando and I'm nervous. All my friends and family are saying, don't do it. Kind of like what you said. Everyone said, don't go build this
Yeah.
castle, or buy this business in Italy. Don't follow this dream. What would you say to somebody who is wanting to maybe take a leap of faith in a relationship or even in a business, but they're nervous? What would you say to somebody like that?
I would say that it's valid to be nervous, of course, because it's something new, right? And you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, you have fear, but you also have excitement. And what's the difference, really, you know? That's where the intuition might come back, where if this is something that you really feel like you want to do and it's right for you, then you need to first of all just sit with that question and take the time and close all of your apps and go to a park and just look at the trees or whatever. That's what I do. And just be like, okay, how does this feel if I'm going to do it? And how does it feel if I'm not going to do it? And which one can I live with?
I
I guess
love
that's
that.
it.
Which one can I live with and which one could I not live with? Like you said, if I did this or if I didn't do this, and if you get a pit in your stomach because there's a thought of that you didn't do it one day, kind of like your question, what if we bought that castle in Italy? It's like which
Mm-hmm.
one could you live with? And I really appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, I could just imagine us, okay, because we were living in Copenhagen, having a beautiful, normal, happy life. Everything was fine, but we wanted an adventure, and I feel like we would almost like never forgive each other. Or be
Mm.
like, now we're living this boring life, like we do everything the same every day, and we're not learning anything. So now when we are at the castle, we're just the amount of things that we have learned are just insane. It's
Mm.
like, and we've been there for 7 years, and that's something that you could never know what's going to happen. I will say this is the one mistake we made when we made the choice to go, is we said the first 3 years are going to be really hard, but we can get through it, and after that then we'll be soaring, we'll be good. And we felt like we had to tell ourselves that in order to get us down to reality or something. Because, like you said, like everyone was saying, don't do this. You're crazy. It's not going to work. It's not going to be as easy as you think it is. And we're like, no, we don't think it's going to be easy. In fact, the first 3 years are going to be very hard for us.
I really appreciate you sharing your perspective, and I really appreciate you sharing the highs and the lows of what it takes to be in a cross-cultural relationship, as well as moving from your home country to, sounds like, several different countries at this stage, raising children in different cultures. It's a whirlwind. We could go into a whole nother episode just about raising kids in different cultures, I'm sure. And I just
Yeah.
wanted to give you the opportunity to share, if somebody said, wow, I'm so inspired by Stefanie's story. I'd love to connect with her. Where's the best place online for her to connect with you as well as your business?
So they want to follow the adventures about the castle, mostly weddings right now. Go to Instagram. It's Castello Ristonchi. For the Americans, it's spelled like Ristonchi, like the CH. Also, our website is ristonchi.com. Follow us on there. We're starting the Castle Club, which is going to gather all of those people that we dream about connecting with, that do have that thirst for life or just want to come to a place where everyone is being their higher selves, and a place in the forest, surrounded by olive groves, and just eat beautiful, delicious food that's not contaminated. So if they want to join the Castle Club, they can find information on the website of Rastanki.com. And then I am writing a book about all of these crazy adventures and more. So they can follow my personal TikTok. I just started it. It's just Stefanie Grassley on TikTok. And maybe having more than like 5 followers will inspire me to get some extra content out there. So
It's one follower at a time. Just keep on
I
sharing your
know.
story. I appreciate this so much, and I can't wait to stay connected.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. And I'm happy and excited to hear the other love stories that you talked to.
Thank you. And that's a wrap for today's episode. A huge thank you to our amazing sponsor, And Beyond, for supporting the Passport to Love series. If you're dreaming of a unique honeymoon, a romantic getaway, or even a destination wedding, And Beyond has been creating transformative experiences for over 30 years across Africa, Asia, South America, and beyond. Visit andbeyond.com for more information and stay tuned for the next episode in our Passport to Love series.